and remake it into something beautiful. It is time for a new world. There is nothing you can't do.
What up, guys? So, that, if you don't know, that's, what's his name? Vecna. That's his name. I watched, like, the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things. That's where I left off. But what I actually find more interesting, so, in that clip, right? It's kind of, it's cool, right? It's like a bunch of drones that was in Las Vegas. They were doing like a firework thing and then like had drones to create the whole display of Vecna. But at the same time, guys, if you understand like the history of Stranger Things and like where that whole story actually came from and like how real it points to certain classified projects, when they do shit like this, it really makes me wonder and makes me think, especially with if you've seen all the other stuff that I kind of go into and have talked about a lot in the past, like a lot of what we experience and what we actually perceive a lot of the times is well, all the time really, is directly linked to our perception. The physical world, in a lot of ways, it's a collective thing that we're all kind of tapped into, but there's certain states that you can get into, and there's certain altered minds that you can tap into, and you can experience the world and tap into things in a very different way. Now, I know this from a lot of personal experience, and also, I know that the government has done a lot of weird, creepy shit in the past. You look at things like MK Ultra, where they are using like electroshock therapy and they're giving people LSD and putting them into hypnotic states and like trying to implant memories and like compartmentalize the human brain so they can make like super soldiers and Manchurian candidates and have them follow out certain directives, and like if they get captured or whatever, they can literally be interrogated and not have any memory of any of it happening. And there's so many other things that they were trying to do with all of that. You go into like Charles Manson, and there's just, it gets really weird and really creepy, okay? So, a lot of things, just like MK Ultra, even MK Often, dude, like there was so many sub-programs that branched off from MK Ultra. And it even started as like Artichoke, and then it transformed into MK Ultra, and then you have things like MK Often where they're using like black magic and like rituals and like psychics tapping into the universe and trying to uncover like secrets and tap into like the spirit world and like communicate with beings and all this weird shit, dude. And they don't want you to know about a lot of this shit. They don't want you to know it's real. The only reason MK Ultra even came out, and we never even got like the majority of the shit that actually happened, right? But the only reason that we even found out is because a lot of it got leaked. They tried destroying a lot of the files, and they did, but there was a bunch of them locked up, hidden away, and through a whistleblower and all this shit, we were able to access that stuff.
Between the years of 1957 and 1984, I became a pawn in a government scheme whose ultimate goal was mind control and to create the perfect spy, all through the use of chemicals, radiation, drugs, hypnosis, electric shock, isolation in tubs of water, sleep deprivation, brainwashing, verbal, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. I was exploited unwittingly for nearly 3 decades of my life, and the only explanations given to me were that, quote, the end justifies the means, and, quote, I was serving my country in their bold effort to fight communism.
So, the government does a lot of weird, creepy shit, and they don't want you to know about it. So, with all that being said, there was a guy, Preston Nichols, and he wrote a book called The Montauk Project. Now, he's kind of an interesting guy. He's a little quirky and has some social quirks to him, but he's like an egghead and a really smart dude. And he wrote a book called The Montauk Project, which I know it's a book, but a lot of the stuff that he's kind of detailing in there, a lot of it sounds very crazy, but a lot of it can, you can track a lot of these things, and it's like corroborated with different people. So, what he's detailing in that book is this place called Montauk. There was this radar array station in called Camp Hero on Montauk Island. I think it was in Long Island. And he started having some really weird things happen with like people coming into his office and or his home and claiming that like he was he was their boss, and that they were like trying to talk to him about all this shit, and he had no memory of it. And he like would keep waking up and have like bandages on his arm and like weird like deja vu of things coming up in that town as well. A lot of strange things would happen. People kept noticing that when they would start powering up this relay station, like a lot of crimes and like weird shit would start happening during the time that they were powering all of it up. Other instances, there would be like huge groups of like younger adults, older, you know, teenagers, I guess. And they would all like file in out, seemingly out of nowhere. And they would kind of just be walking and act like they're going to do something. And then they would kind of all just disperse. And that would happen a lot of times. And what he kept detailing in all of these books and in his accounts and stuff was that essentially they were with this relay station tapping into like portals to other dimensions. They were using children to psychically power all of this stuff up. It went as far as to what he claims they had a chair set up and they would have something hooked up to their head, you know, connected to their mind and all their thoughts. And they also had a screen where they could watch all of these thoughts that the psychic was tapping into, and it would actually project their thoughts onto a screen so the scientists and stuff could watch it. And doing all of this with the help of like the radar and all that shit that they were doing, it tapped into other dimensions. And when they were doing all of this shit, they were able to actually start manifesting physical objects into the physical world. and have them, manifest onto the base. And they were apparently sending people into the future, even like into the past. And they were using children specifically because for the most part, once you reach a certain point in your age, your mind is not quite as malleable. The plasticity of your imagination and like experience something wild and like so out there for most adults would make you crazy, make you insane, and it would be hard to get back to any sense of normalcy. With children, they're still more in that imaginative state, so it's not quite a shock to their whole psychological system the same way it is for adults. So that's why they would use children and do all of this stuff, because it would have a much better chance of them not completely losing their mind and ruining their whole experiment. Now, like I said, take it with a grain of salt, but like I was pointing out in the beginning, if those files and stuff on like MK Ultra and all that shit never came to the surface, how hard would it be to believe that they were actually doing all of that shit? And so when I see stuff like that in Vegas, on one hand, I think that's pretty cool. That's neat. And on another hand, I go, what are they actually doing, dude? What are they actually fucking doing? I don't know. All I know is, don't trust the government. Cool. Bye, guys.